What made you fat? Story 1. When things go right, let's celebrate with food. When things go wrong, well, at least there's food. Answer. I've always said that I'm an emotional eater. If I'm happy, I'm cooking and baking and of course eating. If I'm depressed or stressed, I eat tons of junk food, sweets, etc. I recently moved to a new town and started a new job, all in the same week. Needless to say, I've eaten so many boxes of Haagen-Dazs white chocolate raspberry ice cream bars and mini Oreos in the last 2 months. I think I've given myself the bets. Anyway, I love how you described it. It's so true. My happiest times in life involved food. Story 2. Pizza, donuts, cake, pizza, fried chicken, pasta, pizza, potato chips, ice cream, pizza, peanut butter sandwiches, brownies with peanut butter, fruit juice, cupcakes, and something else, but I can't think of it right now. Story 3. Aripiprazole, but I don't want to eliminate myself anymore, and my mood is stable. Rather be fat than dead. Story 4. Drinking. Drinks lead to poor decisions, which include food. Then you're hungover and want comfort fast food the next day. Story 5. PCOS. It causes insulin resistance, which, over the years, in my case, turned to T2 diabetes. Whenever my A1C is at the correct level, the weight begins to slowly drop off. Story 6. Thinking in my teenage years, look how skinny I am. There's no way I can get that fat. I used to buy Mountain Dew and fill up on chocolate bars like it was no big deal. Story 7. My ex, but no lie. Once you get out of a toxic relationship, the pounds melt off. If you ever find yourself gaining weight but still work out and eat right, it could be your relationship, if not medical. Story 8. Low self-efficacy mixed with anxiety and ADHD. To put it in layman's terms, I have low self-control, so I eat too much and find it hard to stop when the food is in front of me. I also have ADHD, which makes it easy to eat too much because I don't consciously notice myself overeating until my body tells me I'm too full. ADHD also makes it hard for me to pick up a new routine like exercising more. Anxiety tends to keep me away from crowded public gyms. That's not to say I'm helpless. I've developed some strategies that are helping me be healthier and slowly lose weight. For instance, I no longer buy snacks or ready-made anything. If I want food, I'm either making a meal or eating a vegetable. I get 100 of takeout budget a month. On the exercise side, I've been taking baby steps to start a new routine. My brain dysfunction isn't an excuse for me to be a bad person. It just means I have to try harder and be more forgiving of relapsing. Story 9. Being petite and eating regular-sized meals. Because I'm petite, 5 foot, my caloric intake is less than the average-sized person. So an average-sized person can get away with eating 2,000 calories. But if I eat 2,000 calories, I blow up like a balloon. So I have to limit what I eat. Story 10. 1. Hypothyroidism. 2. Insulin resistance from PCOS. 3. Until recently, undiagnosed ADHD that made consistently taking meds for the above darn near impossible. 4. Not taught healthy eating or exercise habits by my parents. They work too much. 5. Being a good cook. I like my cooking too much and overeat. Not all of those are my fault, but it sure does feel like a moral failing that I'm fat. Story 11. I messed up both my feet and walking hurt, so I became sedentary, which became a habit, and even decades later, I'm afraid to walk too far and risk starting the pain cycle over again. It's happened multiple times. Story 12. As a child, grandma saying, "I'm fat," then proceeding to feed me 5 different courses of mao. Also doesn't help a lot of oil is used in my ethnicity's cooking. Story 13. Childhood. As a child, I was not allowed to fix my own plates at meals, but couldn't leave the table until my plate was clean. I remember crying at the table and my mom telling me to stay put until I finished everything she served me. And of course, I gained weight as I got older. All good now. I just had to unlearn some things. Story 14. Type 1 diabetes. Messes with metabolism. Get done eating, guess what, sugar's low. Gotta crush some sugar. Do physical activities, sugar's low, gotta eat, sugar's law. Story 15. Fat. I lost 165 pounds. His name was Chris. He made me fat and miserable. Never date someone who berates you for your weight so you'll stay. Eventually, I recognized what he was doing and that I ate my feelings. I found the love of my life and became a size 2 when I ditched his ass. Story 16. Never ate much fast food. Grew up in the boonies, middle of nowhere. Moved to a major city for college and stated eating it every day. Story 17. Birth control, especially the 3 years on Depo-Provera. Looking back on pictures from that time is horrible. I gained so much weight in such a short amount of time. Story 18. Menopause fudge with my blood sugar management. Once I was able to manage that, the weight dropped off. Story 19. Very active while younger. Stopped being so active but kept the same appetite. Don't really enjoy sports. Never experienced the runner's high thing. So movement itself provides no intrinsic rewards to make my lizard brain happy like it does for others apparently. Arnold in that weightlifting doc once said that pumping a muscle was like an organism. I'd look like him too if I felt that, but I don't. When I lift weights it feels like passing. So yeah, I didn't get wired in the lucky way. Story 20. Insomnia. Chronic stress. I was always very light, 165 centimeters, 50 kilograms. But within 2 years, I gained 25 kilograms. A cortisol belly that looked so extreme that my internist initially suspected Cushing's syndrome. From low blood pressure to such high blood pressure that I needed pills. I developed sleep apnea. The shaming and the good advice only made it worse. Exercise, a strict diet, made everything worse in this condition. I only gained more kg and my blood values seem to be getting worse. I've lost 20 of the 25 kg. Stretch marks are a reminder of that very difficult time. Story 21. My dad would beat on me, then later wake me up in the middle of the night and eat ice cream with me, and didn't say anything. Emotional connection to food, trauma, success. Story 22. Anyone can blame a shoot diet, but lack of sleep for years. Overeating to compensate for the lack of energy and sleep. Sugar, adult beverage, carbs, cardio instead of heavy lifting. So do the opposite for reversal. Consistent sleep schedule, hydration, protein, lift heavy, the end. Story 23. 22M here. Growing up, my whole family was very obese. I never picked up on good eating habits while younger, which led to issues later in life. I did not adapt to life alone well, which led me to peak out at a weight of 630s. Safe to say, I didn't make many friends or develop many relationships. I decided to make a change, and I'm down to 480 pounds after a year and working to get to a healthy weight, 200 pounds, but still have a ways to go. Story 24. Sugary drinks were by far the one cause of my weight gain when I was younger. I lost a ton of weight by simply cutting out full sugar soda and changing nothing else. Story 25. I got sick a decade ago and was on a massive dose of prednisone. It fixed my problem, but I got fat. Story 26. Well, we got married, so we ate and drank a lot in the first year. The COVID came in our second year of marriage, so we ate and drank a lot. We've stopped eating or drinking the way we used to, but it appears the damage is done, and we ain't losing the weight. Smiling. Story 27. Prioritizing motivation and not dedication. We all feel motivated by something in the moment, whether it's that extra piece of cake or getting a gym membership in January. If you focus on dedicating your actions towards something and ignore the motivations, you won't get fat. You just stay on track, rain or shine. Also, delivery food. Story 28. COVID. I got laid off from my job that was very physically active during lockdown and started heavily drinking with my roommates. Struggled with adult beverage and binge eating for the next few years and gained like 40 pounds. Last year I had a bunch of stomach issues, and my doctor put me on an elimination diet. Around the same time I quit drinking. I discovered I'm gluten and dairy intolerant and lost about 20 pounds just from quitting booze and gluten. This year I decided I was done hating myself and started a diet program through my health insurance. I'm finally back down to my pre-COVID weight, and I'm only 10 pounds away from my ideal goal weight. The hardest part of it is realizing that there is no going back to my before habits. I'm no longer a 20-something with a job that burns 10K calories a day and can eat whatever. Can't just be a temporary diet. It's gotta be a lifestyle change forever. Story 29. Spent many summers at my brother's house eating pizza almost every day, and we'd go through a 24-pack of soda in a day or two. Still trying to shed some of that weight. Story 30. Everyone who made me exercise used negative reinforcement and made me continue doing it even though I said it was hurting. So every time I tried on my own, I'd do it even if it hurt. Then the next day I'd be sore, so I wouldn't do it again for a long time. Right now I have my girlfriend helping me do everything simply and slowly without telling me, give me 5 more, or anything degrading. I can't tell if it's working yet. Story 31. Not really fat, but I started to get chubby when I was working at a call center, once from a combination of the sedentary work and eating potato wedges, or pizza from the nearby deli darn near every day lol. Story 32. Gallons of soda. I remember where I was the first time I tried Mountain Dew, and I will never ever forget how great it refreshed me. Story 33. Low-fat yogurts. They put sugar in to compensate for the lack of fat, and the sugar makes you fat, not the actual fat you eat, which is fine. Same for many other low-fat products. Story 34. When I was traveling most of the year for work and eating out multiple times a day, quit that job, cut out sugar mostly and started cooking. Lost 70 pounds within a couple of years. Story 35. I worked at a McDonald's when the pandemic started. When groceries ran low, they let us have 2 meals. So I ate McDonald's 8 to 10x a week for 6 months. I gained 80 pounds that I can't seem to lose. Story 36. Soda. When I was a kid and started sneaking extra soda cans was when I started gaining weight. It quickly got out of control. Story 37. Persistent sleep deprivation from young kids and poor coping habits. Add in sedentary life from young kids and white-collar work. Story 38. Quit smoking. Gained 100 pounds, working on losing it, but now I have 2 forms of arthritis, and walking more than a couple miles a day is agony. I also knit, and my hands really ache all the time. It sucks. I have an appointment with Rheum in a month. I hope they'll give me some low-dose opioids. Nothing else seems to work, and they have to work around my aversion to steroids because they originally tried to treat my blindness with those when I woke up blind with Azure in 22. And they have to work around the Skyrizi for my psoriatic arthritis. Just call me the queen of autoimmune, LOL. Story 39. Adult beverage. Once I stopped drinking, not only was I no longer consuming the extra calories, but as my mind cleared up, my desire to actually get my eating under control gradually manifested itself. Story 40. I stopped playing sports, got my first car, suddenly didn't have to walk to get food. All downhill from there, LOL. Story 41. Emotional eating and adult beverage. What made me finally able to lose that weight was learning to eat the things I like in moderation. No snacking, limiting calories to 1,500 a day for slower, sustainable weight loss instead of crash dieting. Story 42. Eating too much food. Always 2 pork chops, steak at least a pound, 3 pieces of chicken, foot-long sub. It took a while, but I finally learned to stop when I'd had enough and to put smaller portions on my plate. If I found myself wanting seconds, I would make myself wait 5 minutes. The desire for more would go away. I've lost 70 pounds over 4 years by reducing intake. I also greatly reduced sugar. Story 43. I gained some weight after having babies, which is normal, but I gained more when I got a sitting job and started flying a lot. Then I really got bigger when I started dating a guy who wanted to hang out with me during the time I usually took my daily walk hike and liked getting frozen yogurt regularly and cinnamon rolls on the weekends. I would go months without any exercise at all. I finally realized what was happening. We have cut back on the sugar and started walking more again. I haven't quite gotten all the way back to where I was, but I'm working on it. Story 44. Perimenopause. The things I used to do to lose weight no longer worked, and I just kept gaining. Hormones are a meanie. I ended up pre-diabetic and started GLP-1 injections. The weight is finally coming off, and I'm halfway to my goal. Story 45. Depression. Excess sugar intake. No activity. Stress. Laziness. I've been doing well now, and I'm starting to healthier and be more active by doing cardio every day for an hour and do some weight training. I'm going to lose 5 kgs I know of. It's just going to be consistent every day. Same goes for everyone. If you all want to lose fat and weight, then change your mindset and be more consistent and improve your diet. Story 46. Depakote gained 80 pounds in 6 months. I got diabetes from it. That was 40 years ago. I got off that substances, but by then it was much more weight, and it's a whole lot harder coming off than putting it on. Story 47. Disability. I was healthy and active until I suddenly wasn't, and the medication that stops me dying happens to have the fun side effect of massive weight gain. Couple that suddenly not being able to walk or stand up for more than 20 seconds. The only way I'd lose weight is to have all my flesh fall off. Story 48. Hypothyroidism. Genetics. Years of depression. Currently grief from losing my dad. My breakup and losing all of my friends while navigating college and work. I'm a big-time eat my feelings person, unfortunately. It's the easiest dopamine rush at my disposal, aside from all the plant substance I smoke. Oh, and sedimentary aside from my part-time campus job at the cafeteria. Good amount of standing, walking, and occasional lifting, but nowhere close to enough calories burnt to negate how many I eat. It's ridiculous. Story 49. Intimacy trauma had me deeply uncomfortable with strange men gawking at hitting on me. I noticed they didn't pay me as much attention when I was heavier, so I guess I kinda just leaned into that. There was a point about a year ago where I worked hard and lost 40 pounds. I physically felt better, but I couldn't handle the increased male attention on myself, so I gained it back. I truly need loads of therapy and self-defense skills so I can cope with being seen as attractive. Story 50. Brahms cheeseburger. When I was a kid, I was skinny. One day my mother took me to Brahms and I ordered a meal I couldn't finish. Shouldn't have. I was full for 2 days and have had a belly ever since. Story 51. Zero moderation with plant substance leads to constant munchies and minimal motivation to properly work out. My weight fluctuates a lot because I'll smoke plant substance like every day for a couple months and put on like 20 pounds. And then I'll suddenly stop cold turkey and spend the next 3 to 6 months completely sober and lose all the weight until I suddenly pick up the bong again. Story 52. I enjoy cooking, the process, planning meals, and creating something tasty. I'm also a chef. You should never trust a skinny chef. Well, story 53. COVID, pandemic era. Stuck at home for most of a year with little to do. Turns out I struggled with food habits when I'm constantly at home and mildly depressed. To make matters worse, throw in having aging grandparents with violent dementia in their final years of life in 2022. The stress of dealing with that while finishing college broke me mentally. All of that while COVID-era rules meant that getting physical activity in was nearly impossible. Story 54. Honestly, ignoring each time I went up a size. Every 20 pounds took me up a size in pants. Every 30 pounds took me up a shirt size. Rather than fixing the underlying issue, I will fix it later and just go stop by Kohl's and get new pants. Also, relaxed fit expandable waistband clothes can let you get into trouble. I went from 32 waist to 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52. I went from large t-shirt to XL, XXL, XXL, XXXL, XXXXL. Now I am reversing it. I put on about 150 pounds since 1998. That is on average about 6 pounds per year, slow and steady. Now I am aiming for 8 pounds dropped per month. Edit. Minor the COVID years, it sped up when I went 100 WFH. Story 55. Cars. I'm 5'7" when I had to walk to work in my 30s. I weighed 125. This lasted 5 years. Then I got a driving job, put on 15 pounds slowly, then hit menopause depression. My top weight was 210. Now I'm through menopause and down to 185. We'll see how low I go. Story 56. Overconsumption of adult beverage and potato chips during the pandemic. Those bad habits continued way too long after things got more normalish. Story 57. Low confidence and finding comfort in food. I lost most of that weight and I'm not obese anymore. I still have scars and I will need time to heal. Story 58. A mass on my left kidney that threw my hormones out of whack. Lost the mass and lost most of the weight. Story 59. Sedentary lifestyle didn't help, but it was primarily my diet. For a long time, I ate until I was stuffed. I've since gotten better about that, but then I just ate all the wrong things. Sweets, fast food, frozen pizza, etc. Anything frozen processed deliverable, LOL. I'm now doing better about that, at least as far as the processed frozen fast food type stuff goes. Still battling a sweets addiction. I've lost 60 pounds, but I've been stuck at my current weight for like a year. Because even though I have days where I'm eating in a deficit, I'll go eat a bunch of brownies covered with cream cheese frosting, or chocolate chip muffins, or way too many cookies, etc. Story 60. Malnutrition and sudden refeeding. Malnutrition eliminate my testosterone, metabolism, and the IBS. Anemia and sudden eating and binge on certain days made me extremely fat, yet extremely small. I'm 120 pounds, 22 years old, but my body is mostly body fat, especially on my legs, jerk and stomach. It's not like guy body fat either that fills the waist and is firm, no. I have fat distribution similar to a woman, very jiggly legs, butt and soft stomach with a very visible waistline that's extremely soft and lacking muscle to offset it. Story 61. Numerous injuries and conditions that took time to recover from and limited ability to do them again at the level and frequency and intensity. Story 62. Popping out 2 kids in 2 years. Am getting back to my pre-baby weight, but it's a work in progress. Story 63. Eating too much. It started after I had kids. Food would be thrown out when the kids didn't eat it, so instead of my money being thrown out, I would eat it. Story 64. I was on 3 different prescriptions for many years that are known to commonly add 20 pounds each to patients. On top of that, my feet atrophied, and I lost mobility for a couple of years. I could only take a few steps. I was underweight my whole life until I got my chronic condition. Now, I need to lose about 60 pounds. Story 65. Too many carbs. Growing up poor, we ate lots of potatoes, corn, rice, bread, gravy, etc. Today, as an adult, I still like the foods of my childhood. Story 66. Bad food education growing up. Now, I got an adult job and physical activity is at an all-time low, and I eat when I'm bored. Story 67. Chocolate fudge brownie Ben Jerry's and strawberries cream Dr. Pepper. The antipsychotic helped too. Story 68. A no-holds-barred pregnancy. I ate whatever I wanted with no remorse, and the weight has stuck with me well after the baby came. Smiley. Story 69. Junk food and sugar. I walk like 6 miles working at a Major's hardware store. Over 15.5K steps. Have a smartwatch that tracks it. Even if it's off a little, that's still a lot. So exercise is not the problem. Story 70. Alcoholism was my big one. I got sober 6 years ago and immediately lost like 85 pounds, then gained some back with the sugar cravings the first year, then finally started eating better and working out. I'm not to my ideal weight, but part of that is meds. I take antipsychotics as mood stabilizers, and I feel like there's about 10 to 15 pounds I can't shake because of meds, including birth control. But I'm a functional person who can actually sleep and get through days without panic attacks, so I'll take the trade-off. Story 71. I'm a skinny dude, and I started drinking for a year and went from 130 to 175. I'm never doing that again. And I didn't get conventionally fat. I got fat in my gut only. It wasn't a good look with my skinny arms and legs. It was a good year, though, hence the drinking. Story 72. Good question. Acute mono, second time in my life, laid me out for close to a year, leading to eating anything to try to get stronger, leading to fat man, with a diabetes, and rebound bronchitis upon any kind of exertion or activity. Before all that, I was a regular gym guy and runner. Story 73. I messed up my knee bad and couldn't do anything for 12 weeks plus, and then NIT exercising became a habit. I also picked up smoking because boredom, so munchies were real. Story 74. Eating too much and being a person that its favorite thing to do is sitting on the couch and reading a book. I don't like spending time on activities like working out, especially that I'm working physically, and I just want to sit after work. I was always jealous of people that love moving, hiking, working out, etc. I tried, because I was told that when I will start, my brain will start producing endorphins. I started and even one dead endorphin didn't show up. I guess my brain is broken in this area. Story 75. Trauma at a young age. I remember the moment food felt like a substances to me. I have lost over 50 pounds 4 times in my life. Now I am getting older, and I am happy to just be on the chubby side while still eating pretty healthy, but not denying myself. It is a balance. Story 76. There was very little junk food when I was growing up, but my family were German immigrants. We ate sausage and potatoes a lot. Also, growing up in the 50s and 60s, physical fitness was just becoming a thing. My town got its first workout place that wasn't a lifting gym filled with bros when I was a pudgy 22-year-old. I got pregnant at 29 and had a sedentary job. In my 40s and 50s, I began hiking and regularly working out. Salads and small plates are now my friend. Story 77. Sugar, white chips in bags. Lost a lot when I stopped eating that. Got diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Fudge. Okay, no more Coke, ice cream, and chips each week. I eat really healthy as well, so other people must be unhealthy. I was told no bakery food. I look blankly. I don't go to bakeries. Usually sugar and dairy, 2 things I don't eat. Story 78. Overeating and being sedentary. Every Saturday night we went out to eat at Ryan's buffet. I load up my plate with pepper jack and sharp cheddar cheese cubes, and my salad consisted of sliced mushrooms and ranch dressing covered in bacon bits. And back then the dessert bar had an assortment of ice cream toppings. All you can eat M&Ms, chocolate-covered raisins and cookies, gummy worms and cake, paired with the fact that I was not allowed to play sports, so I wasn't active. Story 79. Quit drinking 15 pounds. Quit tobacco 15 pounds. Zoloft 15 pounds. 2 years to lose 10 pounds. Started at 170, now at 205. Story 80. Combination of kids, perimenopause, and an autoimmune disease wreaked havoc on my hormones. Pretty much slowed my metabolism to almost zero. Story 81. Clinical trial for a supplement to antidepressants. Was not worth the money made doing it. I ballooned up so fast. I'm working on it now, though. It'll take time. Story 82. I eat too much. It's not healthy enough, and I don't work out enough. Partially due to injuries, partially due to time constraints and exhaustion. Story 83. Being born. I've never not been fat. I don't really get it for when I was a kid. I grew up in the country, so I spent plenty of time outside. Played sports. Fast food was very rare as we lived out in the sticks. At home, nothing came out of a box. Most meals were planned to give everybody one serving. We didn't have soda or snacks in the house. Granted, they weren't what I would call healthy means. Meat, starch, veg was pretty common. In college, I understand, but I didn't actually gain a lot weight. My roommate was skinny when he started and got fat in 4 years, meaning we weighed the same as me. I did pick up a Mount Dew habit, plus all the beers and cheap food. Post-college, nothing much changed. I've made many attempts to lose weight. A couple times it almost worked, but nothing ever stuck. I'm not delusional. I know the calories come from somewhere, but I've never really had a lot of fat guy behaviors. Anytime I'm eating with my peers, who are not fat, I eat the same things they do. I've always kind of wondered what was different about me. Seems like most people don't really try and never get fat. Obviously not in shape or anything, but certainly not fat. What's different about me where it's been a lifelong problem? Story 84. Once I started working full-time, I would only have the patience to eat dinner. I've also only worked fast-paced, physically demanding jobs. About a decade later, when I moved back home and stopped working, I ate 2 full meals a day and didn't run around for 8 hours. That'll do it. Story 85. You can mark a line right when I moved from a physical job working in a warehouse to when I started working a desk job. Story 86. Used to play sport for a living and couldn't eat what I wanted. Retired at 33 and thought, fudge it, let's enjoy food. Story 87. Being lazy and overindulging in food and dinner dates with my lady. Snacking too much. Takes a lot more effort to lose it than it does to put it on. But I am finally in good shape again, lol. Story 88. Feeling unloved and disconnected, I guess. When I was a little girl, 5-year-old, I used to feel empty inside and thought it was hunger. So tried to fill that emptiness with food. It actually worked, but led to more problems. Story 89. Becoming unemployed. I didn't think about how much I walked at my job every day. To and from the parking garage, up and down 4 flights of stairs, down the block for coffee. Story 90. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, Easter, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and all of the birthdays, graduations, weddings, showers, and leftovers from all of it. That's a lot of special occasions focused around food, and yet people will ask, why aren't you going to have any? Story 91. Food and feelings. I didn't wake up one day with extra weight. It was all the late night snacks, the emotional eating after a rough day, and that whole mindset of starting a workout routine that never really started. It's not even just about overeating sometimes. It's the little things that sneak up on you. Skipping meals, then binging later, drinking your calories without realizing it, or just sitting too much. That kind of slow gain that creeps in when life gets busy and comfort food becomes your best friend. Story 92. Truck stop food, especially the truck stops in the southern U.S. Those breakfast buffets were the best and the worst simultaneously. Story 93. I lost a bunch of weight at 30, but put it all back on due to expense account lunches and whining and dining clients. Growing up, though, I'd have to give a lot of credit to sweetened iced tea, especially the way my mom made it, with extra sugar. I was probably drinking more calories in a day than I eat now. Story 94. I guess my parents and grandparents, since there wasn't a time I was ever considered a normal weight. I was given big portion sizes and ate everything on my plate. I didn't figure out what correct portion sizes were until I was an adult, but by then I was already 300 pounds. I've lost weight since then, but I still have about 50 pounds to go before I can be considered normal weight. Story 95. Adult beverage, good food, working a sedentary job, and not making a consistent effort to stay active. Story 96. Eating, drinking, exacerbated by plant substance later in life. Total inactivity, treats, going out to eat, living life large. Story 97. After graduation, We moved in with my grandma for almost a year, and the type of food I thought she just made for holidays, she actually made all the time. I gained so much weight while staying with her, and to this day, I'm still struggling to get rid of it. And my anxiety got worse because grandma was paranoid, and COVID normalized staying inside. So my anxiety grew into agoraphobia, and I barely exercise, which makes it even harder to get rid of the weight. I was overweight in high school, but it was in a thick way. Now I'm just fat. Story 98. Dating. I only eat what I cook, and that's usually once every day or two when I'm single. When I'm dating, women always want to eat, and it would be weird sitting there not eating. But I also don't want to be cooking multiple times a day, so we end up going out. Any food at restaurants is terrible for you. Never dated anyone who would cook more than on a rare occasion. Once I'm single again, I lose 50 pounds and then end up in a relationship again. Story 99. Living with undiagnosed T1 diabetes. I was in bad shape with my health in many ways. After starting treatment, diet and exercise finally worked and I lost 70 pounds and got into the best shape of my life in my 30s. Story 100. Getting older and still maintaining the same portions as when I was younger with better metabolism and working out more. Story 101. Being a multi-sport athlete my whole life, even competing on an international level in one of them, I was always in very good shape. Being strong and athletic was a core part of my identity to myself and the people around me. Once I decided to go back to school and get a degree, I had to put those things on hold. Of course, that meant I gained fat and lost muscle. I also lost the ability to do certain things that were second nature and felt like they always would be. By the time I completed my degree, I was in the worst shape of my life, and it wasn't even close. It was really hard to face. I didn't want to face it at all. It felt like I had lost everything about who I was. Deep down, I knew I needed to get back in the gym and get my diet on track. But that also meant facing myself and admitting what had happened to my body. Not being able to do a single rep of a weight that I remember being my warm-up was terrifying. And it felt like shoot. Luckily, my partner didn't just let me wallow in self-pity and stay fat. She pushed me. And now, a few years later, and in my 30s, I'm not all that fat anymore. I still have some work to do, and I know I'll never be at the strength or skill I was once at. But I am now on the right track and nowhere near where I was when I graduated. And I no longer have the fear of facing what I lost. I'm still trying to find out who I am in this new era and what I want to define me, but it's much less scary now. There are days when I miss the athlete I was, and I'm frustrated I didn't at least stay on top of my diet in college. But the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. So no matter where you are, who you were, what you can or can't do now, you can start. You can start right now. Story 102. Lockdown, lack of friends, no social life, lack of care for how I looked, gradually worsening social skills and insecurity. But I decided to change at the new year, and now I've lost 20 pounds since then. I'm finally back in the healthy range, though still a bit on the heavier side. I want to lose about 10 pounds more from here. So now I still have everything I said at the top, but just without the fat. Story 103. My fat jerk eating a bunch of trash and then napping while reading about working out. I also like to get all the gear I think I might need to work out. Heart rate monitor, repair parts for my Concept 2 rower, Crocs for the foot pads, gloves for my hands, and then ride the dopamine from buying all the shoot to work out for a while. I don't actually work out though. There is no dopamine overflow going into the garage to start rowing. Story 104. I eat when I feel good. I eat when I feel bad. I eat when I am bored. I did lose a good amount of weight after a breakup and went from about 240 to 155, but have since put some back on to like 190. Story 105. Hypothyroidism. Only just got the medication to correct everything last week, and it's already been amazing. Story 106. My parents. They fed us tons of bad food in large quantities and didn't teach self-control or calories. Story 107. Sedentary lifestyle in software development. I did Weight Watchers, exercise, yada yada. I would drop 20, then pick up 25. It looked hopeless. I know this is quote-unquote cheating, but I was looking at high cholesterol, high BP, bad labs, borderline diabetic, probably a stroke or heart attack in the not-too-distant future. So my doc got me on tirzepatide, 1 shot a week. I've lost 35 pounds in the past 6 months. Another 20 to go, and I'm back in the healthy range. Game changer. AMA. Story 108. Depression. I was already rather unhealthy due to unchecked sensory issues, but when the depression hit, that's when things went bad. I began having extremely unbalanced diets, consumed a lot of cola every day, and never went outside my home, as I simply couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle life. In a year, I gained 10 kilograms, 22 pounds, which was quite a lot for a 13-year-old. I was luckily able to lose those kilograms when I was 16 in a health plan. I still actively use to keep myself healthy. Story 109. Lifted big in my late 20s through my early 30s. Got hurt and stopped lifting for a while, but still ate like I used to. In my 40s, I don't lift big weight anymore, and I am being more conscious about how much I eat. Story 110. Pregnancy and then PPD, plus Zoloft and breastfeeding, making it hard to exercise. Switched meds and stopped nursing and dropped 60 pounds. Story 111. Perimenopause. I'm 5'4" and have been in the 125, 130 pound range for 30 years. I'll be 45 in April, and in the last 6 months, I've gone from 130 to 155 and climbing. Pants I bought 6 weeks ago are now too small. Story 112. Food is a love language, and I love myself. I also have long-running, deep-seated trauma from food insecurity and hunger in my youth. I also quite enjoy cooking and trying new things. Sadly, I'm the kind who isn't motivated to willingly endure short-term discomfort by the hypothetical promise long-term gains, so I dislike exercise. I'm also the kind who doesn't get the called runner's high or dopamine endorphin release after prolonged exercise. I honestly think it's mythical. I've been worked like a dog. I did an enlistment in the Marines, worked construction, and after exertion all I've ever felt was pain, fatigue, and rage at the pain fatigue. Certainly never any kind of good mood. I enjoy sedentary activities like gaming, reading, and films. Perfect storm, really. I was never destined to be scrawny. Story 113. Right now it's pregnancy, but I am hoping I can lose the weight after, and it's not outlandish gain, but it's made me look fatter. Story 114. My grandmother thinking 2 BLTs or oatmeal smothered in butter and sugar are perfect breakfast options for a small child. Daily. Story 115. I broke both arms in 2019, one quite badly. It really changed how much activity I got on a daily basis. Story 116. Birthing babies, an accident that damaged some nerves, electrocution, quitting smoking, my knee getting destroyed, and the knee replacement surgery. What helped me lose weight? Getting my knee fixed and retirement. Story 117. The pandemic. Fast food and an intense, rotating schedule. I worked in healthcare. I should clarify that while I gained weight, I'm not obese, just chunky. Story 118. I got a disease that made it painful and difficult to move. I ate the same way I did before I got it, and that made me gain weight. I did lose most of it, but I'm still a little chunky. Also, my disease was caused by being underweight. It's ironic and evil. I'm still not able to move well or much, but I watch what I eat, and I've gotten better about exercise. Story 119. Nothing could never catch myself being obese. My father's obese, it's extremely unhealthy and not okay. Learn from others and see it's not right. Having medical conditions is one thing, but continuing to be overweight, if preventable, is not. Story 120. Being part of my wife's family, they cook tons and have family events all the time. Even if I behave during the week, there's a feast near every weekend. Story 121. I did, but my nurture, nature, and environment played a huge part. My nature also made me thin. I'm very stubborn and high willpower. Story 122. Age is just a number. You gotta stay active and be mindful of your diet. Don't leave easy to eat junk lying around. Make things hard to get or just don't buy them. Don't weigh yourself every day. Base your results by how your clothes fit. Muscle weighs more than fat. For every pound of muscle you gain, it burns 10 calories while at rest. Get to the gym and do something, 'cause at the end of the day, something is always better than nothing. Story 123. Having a significant other, LOL. It's a curse because they can have treats around, but if I do, I turn into a food monster. Am doomed because I am married. Story 124. Adult beverage. Thankfully, I notice it pretty fast, and as soon as I stop, it vanished pretty quickly. Just 15 extra points on my belly, and I can't look at myself in the mirror, LOL. Story 125. I love cooking, but when I was single, I was only cooking for myself, so not as often. I'm now in a happy relationship for almost 5 years with a man who loves my cooking too, especially spaghetti and meatballs with garlic bread. So that's how I gained 60 pounds. I recently started losing it again, though. Story 126. I developed a tendency towards chubbiness in junior high. I maintained okay through high school, lost some in boot camp, then went to tech school. School on a swing shift midnight chow. Terrible idea. Then I got permanent duty in Italy. Amazing food, booze. It's been a problem ever since. Story 127. I was a dog sitter for a lady, and since her children are adults and no longer live with her, after a while of going to her house, she started inviting me to dinner at her place. After 3 years of going to dinner at her place every evening, I had reached the point of weighing 90 kilograms. We always ate about 200 grams of pasta each, with lots of seasoning, oil that could be seen even from a distance of kilometers, and tons of Parmesan, even where it shouldn't have been put. After a year of no longer working there, and consequently not having dinner, I managed to lose 20 kilograms. Story 128. Many years of Paxil. The only thing that works for my panic attacks. So my choices are fat and functional, or thin and unable to work, drive, leave the house, or function. I chose fat. Story 129. Binge eating from depression originally. Then I ended up losing most of the weight, put it back on years later when my health got bad, and started eating more to cope, or because I couldn't do anything, and would eat out of boredom even. Then lost the weight again due to my health degrading to the point I was severely underweight. So I had to put weight back on, and put too much on, so now I have to carefully lose some more weight. Story 130. Oatmeal. Having to eat it 3 times a day when I was hospitalized. Freshly off my liquids only for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Story 131. Genetics, or my grandmother who decided that every weekend she saw me, she needed to feed me 1 to 2 pounds of homemade fudge, which was every weekend from 8 to 11. I no longer like fudge at all. Story 132. When I was a kid, my dad used to work long days and come home and there would always be a hot meal for him, and he would always have seconds, as he didn't have that much time for a proper lunch. Anyways, I wanted to be like my dad and have seconds too, and that led me to eat faster so I could go get seconds. Well, that eventually got me eating faster all the time, which made me eat more as I never felt full after, which made me be the shapely figure I am today. Story 133. Poor decisions. High cost of healthy food choices. Not creating good habits when I was younger. Food tastes good. Story 134. Per diem and depression. Oh, I have 50 left for dinner. Order all the food. Turns out an entree plus an app is equal to my daily caloric intake. Lost my job and 20 pounds. Story 135. House fire. Losing my parents. Overwhelming. Untreated depression. And basically eating my feelings. 100-pound weight gain in the last few years. Story 136. Seroquel initially. Then, just laziness as I don't enjoy exercising in the slightest. Was 180 pounds, got medicated and ballooned to 300 pounds. Managed to get to like 220 pounds, but then my appetite for exercising evaporated and I gained it all back. On a GLP-1 injection now, so let's see how that goes. Story 137. Was already a little overweight, had 3 pregnancies in 3 years, never lost the extra weight each time. Stress was also on meds that makes it hard to lose the weight. Story 138. Being raised on fast food and processed snacks. My family rarely cooked at home, and if they did, it was a frozen meal. Been working extremely hard to break this habit. Story 139. Got a car, stopped walking everywhere, got a good job, started eating out more, got old, metabolism ran away. You know, the usual stuff. To my credit, I didn't gain it fast. I'm 6'4" and went from 220 pounds to 310 pounds in 14 years. Now losing it, that's the hard part. Almost 20 pounds in 6 months. Story 140. A sedentary lifestyle with a not-so-healthy amount of carbohydrates, partly caused by what I would call my undiagnosed depression, aka the small sad. Story 141. Being insulin resistant. I thought I was just getting older and fatter. Found out I was pre-diabetic and made changes to how when I eat. I still have carbs and sweet stuff every day, but knowing how to eat for my blood sugar had me drop 25 pounds without much effort. I'm 5'2", so that's a lot of weight for my size. I've always been active, so I keep that up. Story 142. Every now and again, I'm too depressed to get my steps in. That's like 56 pounds straight to the stomach and hips in less than a week. Sigh. And people love to point it out. Since my dog died, I have no reason strong enough that beats depression during those periods to get myself in gear. Story 143. When I was 11 years old, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. It was really bad in the beginning, and I had no appetite because, to me, food pain. So I was dangerously skinny there for a while, and the doctors told my mom to put me on a high-calorie, high-fat diet to get my weight up. She did, and worked a little bit. I was still super skinny, but it wasn't dangerously skinny anymore. Then I got the Crohn's disease under control and went into remission, but I was still eating the high-calorie diet, so I got fat. At my heaviest, I was 230 pounds. Then when I left for college and began eating and cooking on my own, my weight gradually went down. By my junior year, my weight had settled to about 170, 180. Been there ever since. Story 144. High school. 6'2", 150 pounds. Post-U.S. Army basic training. 6'2", 180 pounds. Quit smoking 12 years ago. 6'2", 210 pounds. Over the next few years. Today, 6'2", 240 pounds, mainly due to physical inactivity. It's a journey. Story 145. Got obese, full of fat at 5'10", 250 pounds, ate over maintenance calories, and under inconsistently for 3 full years. Now I'm super jacked and big at 250 pounds with barely that much fat. Story 146. 35. At the same time I hit 35, I got a promotion that moved me from a semi-active position to one tied to a desk. Instead of walking around for most of my shift, I wrote reports and read emails. The poor diet and stress were always there, but a slowing metabolism and less activity were a 1-2 punch. Story 147. Adult beverage and all the stress related to COVID era. Employment, money, relationships, general uncertainty about the future. Story 148. Depression and anger manifested as a result of a really toxic environment made of manipulation and conditional love. Story 149. After I went from 273 to 190 in 2014, there was something mentally that snapped, and I ballooned up to about 300. I was on track again to losing weight until life decided to screw me over again, and I spiraled out of control and gotten to the point of being 385, had back pain, knee pain, and could hardly walk more than 200 meters before being out of breath and in pain. Then in 2023, I started a weight loss journey, and I lost 83 lbs in a year. And then I regained about 50 of those lbs's, and I still deal with some binge eating from time to time, but I seem to have it mostly under control. So I hope that I can one day answer the question, what made you fit? Story 150. Anxiety and depression plus perimenopause. I used to smoke when I was feeling stressed. Now I eat instead. It's been 12 years. I've gained 65 pounds. Story 151. I have been fat my entire life. In the last 2 years, I've lost 100 pounds. I have 45 to go, the hardest part of it. LOL, what made me fat was me, nothing else. I chose to eat too many calories based on the amount of exercise I get. Once I reverse the equation, the fat comes off. There is no magic bullet. No shot will work forever or change who you are. It's you. The fat person made themselves fat. Until a person stops trying to blame external stuff like plant substance or weather or anything that isn't an actual physical deterrent to exercise, nothing will truly change. I always say, I don't have a medical problem. I had a put the cookie down problem. Story 152. Antidepressants, food, iron deficiency, anemia. Tried to tackle the problem a few months ago with weight training and a calorie deficit, but made myself so sick, depleting my iron even further, that I had to quit. Basically, I have to raise my iron to normal levels before I can take on weight training again. Story 153. I had a boyfriend when I was 15 who wanted me to be fat. I gained weight for him, he dumped me, and I've had trouble controlling my weight since. Story 154. Cheetos. 2000 to 2002, there were these Pokemon Tazos that came in Cheetos, and I wanted to catch them all, and I did. I have every single one, even some of the triangle ones. Story 155. Overconsumption of food. Calories in, calories out. Thankfully, I woke up before it was too late. 63 pounds down. Story 156. Started studying and Corona started as well. Gyms closed down and studying then took all my time. Never recovered. I'm trying my best, but now work is keeping me busy. If anybody has advice, I'm all ears. Story 157. Feelings, genetics, epigenetics, working from home, metabolic syndrome, perimenopause, ex-husband who based my worth on my appearance and my income, depression, anxiety, negative self-talk. It all spirals until one day you don't recognize yourself and decide that changes have to be made, one day at a time, no matter how long it takes. Story 158. My mom. She gave me a raging eating disorder as a child. It took years to unlearn everything she brainwashed me with. Story 159. Hypothyroidism apparently, but just started meds, so hopefully my body will use food more efficiently now. Story 160. Not changing my diet to adjust to my sudden lack of exercise, or the fact that I stopped working out in the first place once I left the military. That was the start. I moved to a new state and wanted to try all the new foods until darn. Story 161. My boyfriend who makes me very happy, that started the weight gain. And then going from a standing lifting job, getting over 10K in steps and burning like 600 calories on a good shift, to sit-down office job, but am happy with no health issues. Story 162. Drinking and thinking that it's okay to keep eating like I'm still playing 2 varsity sports and spending 3 hours a day practicing working out. Story 163. Steroids from a misdiagnosis of Addison's disease. Then when someone realized I didn't have it and stepped me off of them, I dropped the weight so quickly, I ended up with terrible turkey gobbler that reminds me every single day of that incompetent doctor who couldn't bother to add or subtract right and make my life hell for a year and a half, almost shutting my adrenals down in the process. If only I had enough money for a neck lift, but I don't. I just have to live with it. Story 164. Alcoholism, food, and depression, coupled with pretty severe body dysmorphia. My weight peaked at around 240 pounds from 130 pounds, and my waist went from 31 to 40. Story 165. Pregnancy and depression. But the real answer is probably specifically double sausage, bacon, egg, and cheese hoagies, banana bread, and Wendy's biggie bags, and a man at home that enjoys cooking. Story 166. Depression as a teen. Unlimited access to Little Debbie snacks. Overeating anything and everything. I'm in my 40s now, and I'm finally taking charge of myself and exercising and trying to eat less and more healthily. It's working. Story 167. Eating my feelings, working obscene amount of hours, trying to keep folks alive at the start of COVID. GLP-1 fixed the damage I did. Took me a year to lose 68 pounds. Story 168. Parents punishing eating and hiding sugary foods instead of teaching me how to enjoy things in moderation, leading to bulimia, leading me to binge eating, leading me to disordered eating. Story 169. Currently, pregnancy. I know it's not actually just fat, but I've gained weight and only going to gain more. Story 170. Childhood depression and malnutrition from a broken family. My dad drank the whole budget, so from ages 4 to 8, we didn't have groceries reliably, so I was pole thin. Then when my dad went to jail, we moved in with my granddad, who had dementia, and my mom worked till 8 p.m. most nights. My granddad shopped at Costco and got fudge huge amount of food, so I ate, then ate some more. Then I ate all my feeling of loneliness and depression as an 8-year-old. I'm more aware of it now. Getting gout has helped me actually get the willpower to stick to a diet. Still have a hard time with the feeling my body gets while being in a calorie deficit. Story 171. Multiple surgeries in a year that decreased my movement time. Oh, and treating anxiety with adult beverage. After 2 years of going back to the gym and ditching adult beverage, my body fat percentage is around 23. Story 172. First, COVID wrecked my lungs, so I wasn't running like I used to. Regularly ran half marathons, could barely run 3K, but still ate like I was running. Then I broke my ankle and needed 2 surgeries 6 months apart. Put 30 kilograms on in 4 years. Wegovy, here I come. Story 173. For years I earned a high income, but neglected my health. Long hours, stress, and poor eating habits took their toll. Thankfully, I invested my energy and discipline differently in my 60s. Now I eat clean, train hard, and feel stronger than ever. Everything just works better when you do. Story 174. I did sports all through school. After graduating, I stopped doing sports, but still ate like I did. Also emotional regulation. Eating helped calm me when I felt anxious or stressed. Story 175. Food. Not being sarcastic, just blunt and truthful. Overeating, especially when it's nighttime and you just want to eat something. Or everything. I have a thing for everything, and I do not discriminate against a salty chip nor a creamy piece of chocolate fudge. Story 176. My love for carbs. Becoming diabetic and cutting out carbs helped me lose 60 pounds, and I've been able to keep it off. I miss bagels. Story 177. Food noise and delayed satiety. One is always there. The other meant I didn't know when to stop. GLP-1 has been a revelation. Story 178. When I was little, my dad would just take me to McDonald's after school because it was the cheapest but delicious food available. And well, yeah, not the greatest idea. Story 179. Me. 6 years ago, I lost 200 pounds, got depressed after COVID nearly eliminated me, and gained most of it back. All me. Story 180. Often ignored PCOS, untreated and late diagnosed ADHD. To this day, I'm still not getting the proper care because wait lists are insanely long, or doctors' therapists don't care. Or, simply put, women healthcare is a joke. Story 181. Baby 1. I went from 105 to 120. Baby 2. I went from 120 to 155. Divorce. I went from 155 to 130 until September 2020, when I was a single mother, running a business, and trying to manage virtual public school for my kindergarten son and fourth grade daughter during the pandemic. I didn't even gain weight during lockdown, but the stress from fall of 2020 did me in. I went from 130 to 145. I'm currently at 142. I'm 5'5", so I'm within my normal BMI, but it's not where I want to be. Story 182. Traveling often for work and living on an expense account. Nice restaurants have great food, but it's also full of calories. Then when you don't have to pay for it because your employer does. A recipe for fatness. Story 183. The Army. Was 70 kilograms almost a year ago now. I'm going from 72 to 74. I lost easily if I skip meals and avoid sweets and carbs, but gain easily too. Story 184. I used to work in the oil fields, but because of a bad knee injury, I couldn't do that anymore. I got an office job, and after a year, I started to notice how much weight I'd gained. I couldn't really do much exercise because of the injury, and a lot of fast food that I didn't have access to when I worked in the oil field. Story 185. Forgive me for answering earnestly, but I think the answer is genetics. I just started using Zepbound, GLP-1, a few months ago, and it's changed my attitude about that pretty completely. Not having my body scream at me all day long that I'm about to starve to passing made me realize that how much of it is just body chemistry. I lost 100 pounds, 290 to 185, about 12 years ago and kept it off for about 18 months, and even stayed between 200 and 240 for 4 years. All it took was every ounce of my attention and focus. I had to constantly hold off my desire for food. I was doing calories and macros if it matters. And I exercised between 1 and 3 hours nearly every day. Even on vacations, I would run up and down the stairs at the hotel or do something. When I would break and eat too much, or the wrong things, I would chastise myself, feel like a bad, weak person with no self-control. I would go to bed ashamed of my weakness. After I put the weight back on, it didn't come off. I stayed between 260 and 280 for the most part, even though I was still exercising every day. I wasn't in bad shape, but I was very overweight. I didn't really like all of my mental attention and focus being on how many calories I had consumed and how long until I could eat some jerky or almonds. When I started the Zepbound back in May, I was at 280. I'm at 228 right now, and it has just been cruising. My body isn't screaming at me. I can actually do the food as fuel thing and eat what is healthy for me. I still enjoy food, but my Irish ancestors who needed to dig in the garbage for half a potato during the famine weren't telling me that I'd never get to eat again, to keep going. It changed my attitude completely about myself. I don't think I was just a glutton all that time with no self-control. I was having to fight a lot harder than I should have. I know some people get nausea with the medicine and other side effects. This isn't a commercial, so I don't have to name them all, but I'm pretty sure diarrhea is one of them. For me, I'm just not hungry. Story 186. COVID causing sports gyms to close, and in turn, I ended up just playing Xbox for a few years straight. Story 187. COVID combined with DoorDash combined with treating my move to a new state as a vacation months after living there. I was always a big guy, but I calorie counted, worked out, and got to around 220 in 2019. Moved states and my friends showed me around by taking me to eating spots. It was easy to keep eating a lot. New job paid a lot and had me moving less. Then COVID lockdowns happened. Fortunately, I still had my job. Unfortunately, I discovered the joys of DoorDash and still had the income to eat like crazy. Next thing I knew, I was 304. Over the past 2 years, I've been semi-consistently doing the same workouts and calorie counting that helped me lose weight before. Also lost my job that kept me sedentary. Back at 252 right now. Story 188. Sedentary life outside of work, even though I work in the trades, combined with a diet consisting of 50 fast food. Facing myself has been freeing. Admitting these things to myself started the change. Once I did that, weight loss became as much a habit as hitting the drive-thru was. Story 189. Yo, I took Wellbutrin when I was depressed. That shoot is no joke. Yes, I was depressed and doing nothing, but I swear that shoot is the opposite of Ozempic. I blew up fast, really fast. Story 190. Marrying a wife that cooks really, really good. I used to eat like once a day and it would be a ham sandwich or something quick. Story 191. Lack of exercise and convenience food. Not eating cleanly is something I'm trying to work on, but I'm reversing a lifetime of behavior. Story 192. A bit of laziness, denial, working full-time, old age, no longer being as active as I was in high school. Lost 55 of the 68 pounds I had gained. Then the pandemic hit and I couldn't maintain the new weight. And now I'm 11 pounds heavier than I was at my heaviest. That's a win, right? ETA almost forgot unmedicated ADHD probably caused the most problems. I recently watched a video that eating can be a stimming behavior for us folks. Same with autistic folks. Story 193. I work somewhere where we were given fresh donuts for the 11 a.m. tea break every day. I put on 30 pounds in a year. Story 194. Anxiety and panic being tied to food insecurity as a kid. Feel any anxiety? Eat food. I still struggle with it, but years of therapy help now that I can afford it. Story 195. Getting older, sitting on my jerk, and eating like I was still 16. In my 40s, I cut calories and started exercising and became not fat. Story 196. I was thin my entire life. Then in my early 20s, I fell madly in love with a girl, like love of my life type feelings, but she ended up rejecting me. After that, I stopped taking care of myself and looked to food to provide some enjoyment and a distraction from the pain. I never met anyone else that would inspire me to get back into shape. My attitude has been like, even if I did lose weight, I will still be alone. I feel this way because, as I said, I was thin for most of my life, and it didn't help relationships at all. Honestly, my biggest motivation to lose weight right now is so that my body doesn't hurt so bad. Story 197. Chronic illness, exercise intolerance from said chronic illness, side effects from meds, and probably chocolate lol. Story 198. My brain, the anxiety, the depression, the abusive thoughts. It's a lot, and I just recently realized that everyone doesn't live like this. Yes, I am medicated. Yes, I do other daily actions to support my mental health. Story 199. Initially, Dad didn't teach me about food, moderation, and proper diet. As an adult, carry over from being a fat kid and just not having the time or motivation to correct it. Story 200. Stopped moving. Went from a constantly moving teen to an adult with a license. Carried, birthed, and breastfed 4 kids. And then food. My meals are super healthy. From scratch, a lot of organic, no processed foods meals, grass-fed meats, gluten-free because of one of my kids, etc. But then I struggle with unhealthy snacking, no binging, at night. Before I had kids, it was chocolate chip cookies. Now it's chocolate PB ice cream. I am dead serious when I say I have an addiction to chocolate. It's really hard, but I'm working on it. Sigh. Story 201. Having morality assigned to food, never having junk food around the house so I wasn't able to learn moderation. Exercise being treated as punishment for eating too much, something to be endured, not enjoyed. My weight has fluctuated a lot over the years. Right now I'm bigger than I'd like to be, but for the first time I don't care enough to be bothered by it. Story 202. I'm an emotional eater who has no idea how many calories I was consuming at the time. I count calories now and have been daily for years. It actually helps me to stay in check. Now, I just need